Hi there, it's Hannah the Artisan Duck, and I'm going to show you today how I made this lovely brick stitch pansy flower. So, just put that off to one side. I've made a pattern here, so this is what we'll be working from today, and I'm going to make this video as like a bead with me, so I will do every bead with you, and then it saves me having to edit too much out. I'll leave a description of the bead names in the sort of the box below, but essentially you need 3 contrasting purples, a white and a bright yellow for the centre. I've also got my beading needle and my thread, and I've got about 50 inches of thread on my needle because we're going to need to leave a good tail thread to start with. So I'm going to be starting my beading on row 3 here, and the simple reason for that is it gives us a really solid base to work from. We'll go back at the end and add the top 2 rows here. So we're going to start off by picking up 9 of our dark purple beads. I forgot to say I'm using size 11 Delicas for this project. So I'm going to pick up 2 of my dark purple, if it wants to focus, to start with, and I'm going to take those down my needle and leave about a 12-inch tail thread. So I'm just going to measure on my bead mat where 12 inches is. I'm going to take my beads down to there, and that's simply so that we have enough scope to add those beads at the end and to tie our knots. And we're going to take the needle now just back up through the first bead on the thread, if I can get a grip on it. There we go, like so, and pull through. And this will make those 2 beads sit side by side like that. Now I'm just going to reposition my working thread, so I'm going to go back up through the next bead along. So I'm holding the bead where we're exiting from, and we're just going to go up the next one along. This will leave our tail thread in the right position for when we need to go back and do those extra beads. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up a single dark purple Delica. I'm going to take the needle in through the bottom of the bead that we're exiting from and pull through. And every time we add a bead in this way, we'll literally just be adding chains of beads so they sit all side by side. I might need a little bit of persuasion, especially because I just tugged my beading awkwardly. But that one's sitting next to the middle one now. This one's going to keep getting pulled because I'm holding my tail thread quite tight for a minute. But because we're exiting out sort of in the middle of that beadwork, we need to exit out the bead at the end. So I'm going to find my needle, and I'm going to take my needle back down through the top of the bead. So you can see we're exiting at the top here. I'm going to jump over and down into the bead that we've just added and pull through. Right, we're now ready to move on. So I've picked up another bead and we're going in through the bottom this time. So we're exiting out the top and we're looping around and pull through. And that's added it on by the side. Now I'm just going to go back through the top so we're ready to add the next bead. There we go. I'm going to go in with another. We're exiting out the bottom, so we're going to go in through the top this time. And back up so that we're ready to move on with the next bead. There we go. We've added 5 beads there already. I'm picking up another one, and because we're exiting out the top, we're going to go in through the bottom of the bead and pull through. Going to go back down into the bead we've just added and pick up another one. There we go, we're exiting out the bottom, so we're going to go in through the top and loop around. going to take my needle into the bead on the end. It's a bit hard for me to show you all the beads as I'm doing it at the minute, so I need to sort of hold them. That'll get easier as the pattern builds. So this is our 8th bead in this row. Pull through and down. And then this is the last bead. I'm exiting out the bottom. So I'm going to go in through the top and down. And then I'm going to take my needle back through the bead on the end. So you can see now we've got the tail thread exiting out the top and my working thread exiting out the bottom. And if you are slightly concerned at this point, you could always just give everything a bit of a tug, tighten it up. But as we add more rows of beading, this will all sort itself out. So we're exiting out the end of this row here, and we're going to move down onto the next row. This row is increasing in length, and we have a dark purple with our 3 of our lightest purple, 2 more dark purple, followed by 3 more of the lightest purple, finishing with a dark purple. Because the row is increasing, we pick up 2 beads to start with. As you can see, I've already laid my beads out ready for me. I'm picking up my dark purple and my light purple to start with, and I'm going to take my needle under the thread that's going across these 2 dark purple beads, and I'm going to pull through. You might find that that thread loosens as you pull it. Just pull the working thread and it'll sort itself out, and pull through. I'm now going to take my needle and it's just going to go through the lightest purple and pull through. I'm just going to sort of pull those threads and make sure that those beads are sitting nicely, with the new beads sitting on top of the row that we added in the first step. So I'm going to go ahead now and just pick up a single purple bead, and we're going to go through these threads here, joining these beads. Because of how we build the first row of beading, you're going to have sort of 2 strands of thread there. I like to just go underneath one of them. It just makes it slightly less bulky, slightly less awkward to do. So I'm just going through there, and I'm going to take my needle back up through the light purple like so. Just tighten it up, and there is the light purple added. So I'm picking up my next bead. I'm going to go under the thread and pull through. And then I'm going to go back up through the purple that I've just added and pull. There we go. We're now ready to move on to one of our dark purple beads. You obviously don't have to use purple. You could use a variety of pinks or whatever you've got. It doesn't really matter too much. In fact, I did pull some pink beads out, which I really loved, but I'd already started with purple, so I continued. But yeah, I think pink would look really nice in this pattern. I'm going to go back up through that bead that I've just added and pull through. There we go. I've got another dark purple bead and take that through. And then back up through the bottom. We're going to go back to our light purple now. So I'm just going to find one of those threads there, pull through. Go back up through the bottom of that bead. that's what we're looking like so far. I'm going to pick up another of my light purples, and I'm just going to go under those threads there. You can just pull the tail thread a bit here if things are getting a bit loose, and pull through. And then I'm going to go back up through that light purple. Right, so I've got one more light purple to pick up before I finish this row. So I've picked up my purple, and I need to figure out which of these two threads is the thread that I'm holding in my hand. So I'm just loosening it slightly. I can see it's the one sort of furthest in this way. So I'm going to go through the other one because I really want to keep the tension in the beadwork consistent. If I pull through this tail thread, it's going to be annoying, quite honestly, and I'm not here for that today. So I've gone through that thread, and I'm going to go back up through the light purple, and I'm going to add my last bead on the row. So it's my dark purple, and we don't have any more of those threads left between sort of beads down here, so I'm just going to sort of steal the thread from underneath that bead there and pull it through. Again, if it looks like it's lifting the other bead, just pull the thread coming out the top of the bead. I like to then hold the end of the beadwork, and then just to finish this step off so we can move on, I'm going to go back up through the bead we've just added and pull. I'm just going to sort of push that bead down as I do it, so I know that those two rows are sitting nicely together like that. And now we're ready to move on. So we're exiting out the bottom of this row, and we're about to move on to this one. So we've got dark purple, light purple, two white beads, a light purple, dark purple, and a light again, and then it's sort of a mirror image. So two more white beads, a light purple, and a dark purple. And this row is increasing again. So we're going to pick up the two beads to start with. If my camera wants to focus, there we go. A dark purple and a light purple. And I like to just turn my beadwork around, so I'm always moving in the same direction. I'm just going to take my needle under those threads and pull through. And then I'm going to go back up through the light purple bead, like that, and pull. And those are our two new beads added. So I'm going to move on to a white bead now, and it's just one bead at a time for the rest of this row. So there's my white bead. Pull through. And go back up. Have another white bead. Go back through those threads there. And back up through the white bead. I'm going to pick up a light purple. I'm going to go under those threads and back up through the purple. I'm going to add my dark purple, like so, pull through and back up through the purple bead. There we go. And now everything we do from here is a mirror image. So I'm going to add a light purple bead. Take my needle under those threads and pull through. And take my needle back up through that purple bead. We're on to our white beads now, so a single white bead, and I'm going to go under those threads and pull through and go back up through the white bead. It's going to hook itself if I'm not careful. There we go. I've got another white bead, so under those threads and pull through, and then we're going to go back up to secure it in place. There we go. We have our last light purple in this row, so I'm just going to pick that up and go under that thread. Oops. And I am going to go back up through that purple. And I'm going to pick up the last bead in the row, and because there's no threads left for us to use, I'm just going to take my needle under there and catch those threads that's going up into this purple, or the light purple bead, and pull through, and then back up through the dark purple so that we are ready to move on. There we go. So we're exiting out of this row here, and we're moving on to this one. So we're going to see the sort of the start of our mid purple bead being introduced. I won't run through the colours because I'll pick them up with you in a second, but that's the row, this one here with the mid-toned beads on, that we're going to be doing now. Right, this row is decreasing, so it's not increasing in length at all. We're working our way in. So we're just going to pick up one bead to start with this time. So I've got my light purple, and I'm just going to go under that thread and pull through. And I'm going to go back up just to help secure it in place. There we go. Help if I pulled the thread in the right direction so it didn't pull it out of shape. That's how it will look. So now I'm moving on to my white beads, just a single white bead, and take my needle under the next threads along and pull through. And I'm going to go back up through the white bead. And now we're going to pick up one of our mid-toned purples. So I'm saying mid-tone because this one at the top of the flower is my darkest, this is my lightest, and then I've just got this sort of shiny bead that I'm classing as a mid-tone purple. So I'm just going to pick that up, and I'm going to go under that thread, take my needle through, pull through. There we go. I'm going to pick up another of those mid-toned purples. I do wish there was a slightly more contrast between these two purples, but I'm trying to use what I've got and be a little bit frugal with how much I spend on beads for the time being. So I've just gone under that thread, and I'm going to take my needle back up like that. In a dream situation, I'd have the whole of the Delica collection because I love Delica beads. That would cost so much money. Anyway, I've got one more of my light purple beads. go under that thread and pull through, and straight back up through that bead again. I'm going to pick up another of my light purples and into the next thread, and then back up through like that to secure in place. Now we're back on with two of our sort of mid purples, so I'm just going to take my needle under that thread and pull through, and back up through that bead, pull. We're going to pick up another mid purple and go under the next thread along, back up, looped it somehow. Oh no, I've gone split my thread. There we go. I'm using a slightly different thread to normal. I usually use wildfire, but again, trying to be a little bit more frugal with how much I'm spending on supplies. You know, I wish I could spend all my money on bead supplies, but I can't. There we go. I think I've got there. There we go. And now I'm going to pick up a white bead, and I'm just going to go under the next one along. Yeah, wildfire just doesn't split like that, so I keep having to remind myself to be careful with this thread. It's lovely thread, but yeah, I'm just not used to a thread that splits quite so easily. There's the white, and the last in this row is a light purple, and I'm just going to use that thread there. And because we're not making this row any longer, we don't need to sort of add any more sort of stealing off the thread of this one. This is the end of the row, so pull through. There we go, and now we're ready for the next row. So this row here is our next row with the first of our bright yellow beads. Again, you can see the layout of the beads. So I've picked up my first bead in this row, and it's a light purple. So I'm just going to take my needle under those threads. I think I've split it. There we go. That's fully under those threads. You know, this is the third time I've done this on this row, and for some reason, this particular bit of thread is driving me nuts. I'm not entirely sure why. I'm going to hold it really tight and hope that it just behaves this time. I am going to go back up through the bead. Okay, it is sitting correctly. I am going to go in and pick up, a white bead, and to just under those threads and back up. I don't know why. I often find in a project there'll just be one bit or two bits that just don't sit right, even though it's the same stitch over and over. I don't know if that's just me or if anyone else can relate to that. I don't know what I did there, but it just kept going funny. So I have got a mid purple. I'm going to go under those threads and pull through, and then go back up through that bead and pull. We have another mid purple under those threads like so, and pull through. And then I'm going to pick up my yellow bead. This is the very centre of the flower, and I've deliberately chosen the brightest yellow I have because I really wanted it to stand out. So I'm just going to add that to the middle and back up. There we go. And now it's a mirror image. So I'm going to go in and pick up the first of my mid purple beads and just add that to the other side of the yellow. And back up. I've got another of my mid purple and add that one on. And then I have a white bead like that, just a single white bead, and take my needle under those threads, pull through. I knotted my thread. There we go. Have I undone it? Yes, there you go. Not averted, because that would be very frustrating. And I'm going to pick up the last bead in this row, which is a light purple, and I'm just going to go under those threads and pull through. And I'm going to go back up to secure it in place. There we go, and that row is finished. So we're on to this row down here with these two lovely bright yellow beads in the middle. I already have my beads sorted for me, so I'm going to go ahead. We're not increasing still, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick up one of my light purple beads and just take it in under that thread there. Let's hope this row starts better than the one I did a minute ago. Pull. And then I'm going to go back up through the bottom of that bead to hold it in place. There we go. I have picked up another of my light purple beads. I'm going to go back through. And when you're choosing your bead colours, you do just want to make sure there's enough of a contrast between the shades of purple or whatever, just so that you can hopefully clearly see all the different details, which is why I wish there was a more of a contrast between these two. But yeah, you just want to try and find beads with enough of a contrast so you can see all the details. I have picked up another light purple bead. I'm going to go back up through the bottom. So this is 3 light purples in this section, like that. And now we're on to our lovely bright yellow. So just one of those for a second and put that on. I'm going to go back up through the bottom of the bead and pull through. I have another yellow bead. I'm just going to go through those threads there and take the needle up. There we go. And now we're just going to add the 3 light purples on the other side, but one at a time. So there's my first purple bead. I'm going to pick up the second of my purple beads. There we go. And take that under those threads and back up through that bead. And the last in this row, take it under there and back up to secure it in place. There we go. That's all the yellow beads added now, which kind of makes me sad because I think they're really lovely. Also, do you not think it looks like an owl at this point? Because that is all I see is an owl. So we need to bead this row here, but as you can see, we're not just sort of decreasing the row, we're actually sort of stepping in quite considerably. If we just picked up one bead to start with, we would be beading in this blank space. So before we add these beads, we need to just move in a little bit with our needle and thread. So to do that, I'm exiting out this purple bead on the end. I'm going to take my needle just up into the purple bead on the end of the row above and pull through. I'm going to just jump across now into the white bead and push down, so my bead needle is going through the white bead and the second purple bead in, and pull through. And that sort of thread here will just disappear into the beadwork like that. And now we're ready to move on with our beading. So I'm just going to pick up a single of my light purple beads and take the needle under that thread and pull through. I now have one of my sort of mid purple beads. Take that under and back up. There's 3 of these mid purple beads in this section, so this is my second one. Just take the needle under that thread and pull through and up, and then the third one in this row of my mid purple, that is, and pull through. And then I'm just going to pick up the last bead in this row. It's a light purple, and just take that under those threads and add it on to the end of my row. There we go, and that row is completed. So we're onto this row here now, and as you can see, we are increasing again on both ends of this row. To start this row, I've picked up a light purple and a mid-toned purple at the same time to get that increase. So I'm just going to take my needle under that thread and pull through. And then we're going to go back up just through that mid purple just to help secure in place like that. I'm now going to pick up another of my mid purple beads, just one this time, and there's 4 of them in a row on this row. So I'm going to go back up through that bead to add it on. There we go. There's the third of my mid purple beads. I'm just going to go under that thread and pull through. And this is the last of those mid purples in this row. Just secure that one in place. And I've got the last bead in this row, and it's a light purple. So I'm just going to take that down my needle and thread, and I'm going to find those threads running between the beadwork like so, and pull. And then back up through that light purple to secure in place. There we go. There is that row completed. So we're introducing the white beads again in this row, and these, I should maybe explain, this is my pattern. So there's like, if you were to read the pattern, it would be 1D, and that relates to the D in here. So that's why there's letters in these blocks here. So yeah, you can ignore those. Looks like I'm trying to spell ABBA out in the middle. I'm not. Anyway, so we're on this row here. We're increasing off both sides. So we're going to have to pick up 2 beads to start with and attach one off on the side there. So I've picked up a light purple and a white to start this row, and I'm just going to take my needle under that thread and pull through. And that pattern, I'm not sure I've mentioned it, is available on my blog. So you can go and grab that pattern. I will put a link in the description box for that pattern. So you can have that for yourself to keep. I've now got a mid-toned purple, just one this time. And I'm going to go under those threads and pull through. And then go back up. I'm going to pick up another white. I'll say Delica beads are usually very consistent, but why does that white look absolutely huge compared to the others? If it really bugs me, I'll go back and change it in a minute, but let's add this white and see how it compares once this one's added. I'm going to go on there and pull through. Does it look as big now? No, it's okay now. That was really weird. Is that an optical illusion maybe? I don't know. But I'm going to go ahead and pick up, oh, if I can get it, there we go, my mid-toned purple, and under that thread and pull through. There we go. I have another white bead. And use the last of those threads. There we go. I split the thread. It really bugs me for some reason. There we go. I don't think I did, but anyway, it's okay now. I'm going to go back up through the bottom and tighten. And the last bead in this row is a light purple, and we just need to find the threads under that white and attach it on to the end of the row, whilst not trying to pull the thread off my needle. So I'm just going to go back through the bottom and pull. There we go, and that row is completed. We are on this row here now, so you can see we're not too far from the bottom, but we've obviously got 2 light purples on the end with 4 white beads in between, but we are decreasing again to draw in the shape at the bottom of that petal. So I'm just picking up a single light purple bead to start this row because we're not increasing, and take it under that thread and pull through and go back up through the bead to secure it in place. If at some point it does look like this one, would just look like it was getting a bit loose on the bottom, so I've just loosened the bead that I've just added. I'm going to go back in and pull the thread that's coming out of that bead and then go back in and tighten it up. So I'm trying to make sure I'm keeping everything held and tight at the same time as I do it. So I'm now going to go and add one of my single white beads, and just in the same way under that bridging thread and then back up. This is the second of our single white beads, and I'm going to add that on. Oops. I do think I could do with a better tripod so that I didn't keep hitting my camera. There we go. And then got the third white bead and adding that one on. Go back up like so. And then I have another white bead. I'm just going to add that on. I think so. And the last one in the row is a light purple, and we're going to use the last of those threads running across the beads, and go back up to finish that row off. There we go. Our pansy is definitely taking shape now. We are down second to the last row, and we're basically alternating light purple and white beads all the way along. The row is decreasing still, so I've just picked up a single purple bead, and I'm just going to take my needle under those threads. I have to say the start of rows do not like me today. I think it's this thread that I'm using, but I'm not used to it being so annoying. Anyway, I'm going to go back up through the bead to secure in place. I'm now going to move on to a white bead just under that thread and pull through and back under that bead. Go ahead and pick up another of my light purple beads and under those threads, and pull up, and then it's the last white in this row, so under those threads and pull through, and then I have my light purple. I'm just going to add that on in the exact same way. There we go. This part is nearly complete, so we are just going to move on to the last row, which is just 4 light purple beads. So I've just picked up a single purple bead to start with, and I'm going to go under that thread, pull through, and back up through that bead. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and pick up another single purple bead, add it on. There we go. Third purple bead. I'll just go back up through that bead there. And the last one at the bottom here is a single light purple bead, and we're just going to add that on at the very end of the row. There we go. Now you can knot this thread if you want. If you know how you're going to use your pansy and you don't sort of want to leave it open for a minute, you can go ahead and knot this thread and cut it off. I'm going to go ahead and take my needle off my working thread and add it onto my tail thread, and then I shall come back to you for us to finish the top of the flower. We're now ready to add these beads here. So we've got a set of 3 followed by 2, and the same on the other side. So I have got my needle on my tail thread now, and we're ready to just start as we are, because we're exiting out the end of this top row. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick up a single purple bead and just take that under the threads, and it's just the same stitch as before, and pull through. There we go. There's another single bead. I'm just going to try and find a single thread there, because there's 2 threads. If I can, there we go. I think I got both of them actually, but we'll see. There we go. Pull through and take up like that. And then the last bead in this row is just another single, or in this section should I say, single purple bead, and go back up. And instead of moving along and doing the next set of 3 down here, we're just going to continue. We're here now, so we may as well just finish this bit off. So I'm going to go ahead. Oops, I nearly dropped it. No, I did drop it. Honestly. Pick up a single purple bead, and I'm going to go up into the thread on the very top there and pull through. And take the needle up like so, and then last dark purple bead in this half of the beadwork, just add it on in the exact same way. There we go. If my thread looks a little frazzled, it's because I actually beaded this already and realised my camera wasn't working, so I've unpicked it all. So my thread's getting a little bit sort of tired now, but that it has finished that side of the beadwork off. We need to work our way along so that we're exiting out of the 4th bead, sort of we're counting in from the opposite end, because we just need to use these last 3 bridging threads for the last little section. So I'm just going to take my needle down. I'm going into the, hoping you can see, it's the dark purple bead below where we are exiting from. So you'll see the thread on the outside of the bead on the top. Like I say, I've used this silver thread. If you were using a dark purple or a purple, it would blend in a lot better. I'm now going to go down into the next, so it's the middle purple on the next row below, and pull through. And I'm going to take it down into the light purple on the row below that, just down there, and then we're sort of ready to move our way along. So I'm just going to jump across into the next purple along, so it's literally the neighbour of the one we're exiting out of, and pull, and this thread should disappear between the beadwork. I'm going to go down into the dark purple bead. It's the next bead along, still on the same row of beading, and go down. I'm then going to go up the next purple along, like so. And then we're going to take the needle up. So it's I think it's a bit tricky to see, but if you count in from the edge, it's the 4th bead in, and pull through. And now we're ready to continue our beading. So I've got a single bead, and I'm just going to use, I think there's 2 there, so I'm just going to find that one there, that thread, and pull through and go back up like that. We're going to add another single brown bead, push through, and go up like that. And the last bead on this row is another single bead. Again, I think there's 2 threads there. I think I've gone through both of them. Let's see. There we go. It's only if it won't go that it's annoying or a problem, but that one was okay. So just going to add that bead on. And then I'm going to pick up another single bead, and we're going to work our way up to the top of our beadwork now. So go through those threads on the very top, pull through, back up through the bead. And then the very last bead in the row is another dark bead. It's just occurred to me, I do hope I didn't pause the recording at any other point and keep on actually beading, because that'll be interesting when I come to edit it. I really hope I haven't done that. Anything's possible today, I think, but anyway, pull that through, and that has finished your brick stitch pansy. So you can obviously use this in any way you want. You could put it on necklaces, you could make them into earrings. I actually don't know what I'm going to do with it. If you wanted to make earrings with it, you could just add a beaded loop at the top, like maybe 6. I would use like a clear bead or something, even if you've just got like regular seed beads, just a clear seed bead or something that you could hang an earring hook off. I am not going to finish it with anything for the time being until I figure out what it is I would like to do with it, because I kind of think, so I've got another one here, that I could string them on a necklace and make a pansy necklace. So I'm going to go away and think about how I'm going to do that. But first I'll show you how to tie the knots and the threads and all that kind of thing to finish it off. So I'm going to leave the tail thread for the time being in case I want to add something on. I don't know, but I will put my needle on my tail, my working thread. This is my original working thread, and I'll show you how to knot the threads so that you're ready to move on to whatever you want to do with it. So I'm going to take my needle back up into the beadwork, and I'm going to go into this bead at the end, because as you can see, if I don't, it kind of has a bit of a floppiness. It might just move down. I'm not making myself very clear, I don't think. But anyway, we're going to go back up into the bead just above it, and that will help to just hold that last bead in the row there nice and secure like that. I might just move up just 1 or 2 more into the beadwork, just so I'm not quite working right at the very end. Now you need to find a thread that's going between the beads. This can be a bit fiddly. Sometimes I will knot my threads on the very edge, but I don't want it to look too obvious. So I've just taken my needle under a thread. I'm hoping you can see the threads are running up between this beadwork. My needle is going behind, and pull. I'm going to pull, so I make a little loop. And once you've got that loop, take your needle through it and pull it again. I like to put my needle down, mainly so I don't stab the palm of my hand. And then I pull, and I like to pull really tight. And then I'm going to take my needle up into one of the beads above it, like so, and pull through. And I would do that a good 3 or 4 more times in the beadwork, and the same with the tail thread. And once you've done that, it should be nice and secure, and you can go ahead and cut those threads off. So I'm going to go away and figure out what I'm going to do with these pansies, and then I shall come back and show you. So I ended up making 5 of my flowers, and I just rummaged through my bead stash and found these purple faceted beads, and I've used the Delica beads that I've used on the top, and I've just linked them together and added a chain at the end. Yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed that. I now have a beautiful new necklace to wear, so it's always a bonus for me. The pattern will be in the description, so you can go and grab that off my blog, and I'll put the names of all the beads and all that kind of good stuff. Give me a shout if you've liked this tutorial, and a like, a comment, whatever, because I used to do a lot of brick stitch, and it's been a while since I've done any, but I'm happy to do more because I love doing brick stitch. Anyway, see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.